The United States has spent more than $250 billion in its 3 years in Iraq, and more than $50 billion of it has gone to private contractors hired to guard bases, drive trucks, feed and shelter the troops, and rebuild the country. It's dangerous work, but much of the $50 billion, which is more than the annual budget of the Department of Homeland Security, has been handed out to companies in Iraq with little or no oversight. Billions of dollars are unaccounted for, and there are widespread allegations of waste, fraud, and war profiteering. So far, only one case, the subject of a civil lawsuit that goes to trial this week, has been unsealed. It involves a company called Custer Battles and provides a window into the chaos of those early days in Iraq. When U.S. troops entered Baghdad in the spring of 2003, there was no electricity, widespread looting, and little evidence of post-war planning. With the American military stretched to the limit, the Pentagon set up the Coalition Provisional Authority to govern the country under Ambassador Paul Bremer, who began hiring private companies to secure and rebuild the country. There were no banks or wire transfers to pay them, no bean counters to keep track of the money, just vaults and footlockers stuffed with billions of dollars in cash.
Fresh, new, crisp, unspent, just printed $100 bills. It was the Wild West.
Frank Willis was the #2 man at the Coalition Provisional Authority's Ministry of Transportation. The money was a mixture of Iraqi oil revenues, war booty, and U.S. government funds earmarked for the Coalition Authority. Whenever cash was needed, someone went down to the vault with a wheelbarrow or gunny sacks.
Those are $100,000 bricks of $100 bills, and that's $2 million there. This, in fact, is a payment that we made on the 1st of August to a company called Custer Battles.
These are called bricks, right?
Sometimes we referred to them as footballs because we passed them around in little pickup games in our office.
Do you have any evidence that the accounting system was a little loose?
I would describe it as non-existent.
The $2 million given to Custer Battles was the first installment on a contract to provide security at Baghdad International Airport. The company had been started by Scott Custer, a former Army Ranger, and Mike Battles, an unsuccessful congressional candidate from Rhode Island who claimed to be active in the Republican Party and have connections at the White House. They arrived in Baghdad with no money, yet within a year they landed $100 million in contracts.
They came in with a can-do attitude, whether they could or not. They always said yes.
They have any experience?
They were not experienced. They did not know what they were doing.
Complaints about Custer Battles' performance at the airport began almost immediately. Colonel Richard Ballard, the top inspector general for the Army in Iraq, was assigned to see if the company was living up to its contract, such as it was.
The contract looked to me like something that you and I would write over a bottle of vodka, complete with all the spelling and syntax errors and annexes to be filled in later, presented it the next day, and then got awarded about a $15 million contract.
Custer Battles was supposed to provide security for commercial aviation at Baghdad Airport, including personnel, machinery, and canine teams to screen passengers and cargo. But the airport never reopened for commercial traffic. Instead of canceling the contract or requiring Custer Battles to return the money, the Coalition Authority instead assigned them to operate a checkpoint outside the airport. How'd they do on that job?
They failed miserably.
Was anybody paying attention to this money and where it was going?
There was significant concern, but there just were not the people in theater to monitor that kind of thing on a day-to-day basis.
So the answer is?
No.
According to Colonel Ballard, the contract required Custer Battles to provide sophisticated X-ray equipment to scan the contents of incoming trucks.
These were multi-million-dollar devices for which they received a considerable cash advance so that they could procure them, and then they never procured this equipment.
What do you mean? As for the bomb-sniffing canine teams,
I eventually saw one dog. The dog did not appear to be a certified, trained dog, and the dog was incapable of operating in that environment.
What do you mean incapable of operating in that environment?
He would be brought to the checkpoint, and he would lie down, and he would refuse to sniff the vehicles.
What about the handler? Do you have a handler?
The handler had no certificate and no evidence.
So neither the dog nor the handler were qualified?
I think it was a guy with his pet, to be honest with you.